Why do so many people give up before they even begin? Why do dreams fade into the background of everyday life, buried under distractions, fear, and doubt? It's not because people aren't capable. It's not because they don't want it badly enough. It's because they've forgotten one simple truth. You can still build the life you want, even if it feels far away right now. Success isn't about luck, talent, or perfect timing. It's about clarity. It's about the quiet decision you make when no one's watching. The decision to keep going, to believe in your purpose, even when the results aren't showing yet. It's about showing up every day with a mindset that refuses to fold. There's a story about Robert Greene, now a best-selling author, quoted by millions, respected around the world. But for years, he was just another writer with a dream and a pile of rejections. He worked in random jobs. He doubted himself. He had no guarantee that anything would ever work out. But he kept writing. He kept learning. And eventually, he wrote a book that didn't just succeed, it exploded. The 48 Laws of Power became a phenomenon, not because he was lucky, but because he never abandoned the vision he held quietly inside him for years. This episode is about that mindset, the kind that changes lives. Not overnight, not with hype, but with consistency, meaning, and direction. If you've ever felt like you're too late, too stuck, or too far behind, I want you to listen closely. You're not behind. You're just not finished yet. These are 10 powerful shifts, mindset changes that anyone can make, no matter your age, your job, or your past. If you take them seriously, if you really sit with them and apply them, they will change how you move through life. So let's begin. 1. Never abandon your dreams. There's a quiet kind of death that happens when someone gives up on their dream. It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it just looks like someone getting used to a life they never wanted. A silent agreement with mediocrity. A slow surrender to fear. And the saddest part? Most of the time, people don't even realize they've given up. They just stop trying. They stop believing. They settle. But the truth is, if something inside you still aches for that dream, if it still keeps you awake at night or quietly visits you in moments of silence, it's not dead. It's waiting, waiting for you to show up again. The people we admire, the authors, the thinkers, the athletes, the innovators, they didn't succeed because it was easy. They succeeded because they refused to let go, even when no one cared. Even when no one believed, even when the world told them they were wasting their time, they kept going. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Stephen King threw his first manuscript in the trash. J.K. Rowling was rejected 12 times, and yet none of those moments defined them. What defined them was their refusal to abandon the vision they saw so clearly, even when no one else could see it. That's the difference. It's not brilliance, it's not connections, it's not even timing. It's the decision, quiet, firm, and often invisible, to keep showing up. Let's be honest, chasing a dream is painful. There's rejection, doubt, boredom, loneliness. The temptation to quit will visit you often. It will speak with a kind voice and logical arguments. Maybe this just isn't for you. You gave it your best shot. It's time to be realistic. But being realistic is often just another way to rationalize fear. And fear has never built anything worth remembering. Sometimes people don't abandon their dreams all at once. They just delay them to death. They say, one day, and keep pushing it until that day never comes. They wait for perfect timing, more confidence, more money, more support. But that perfect moment, it doesn't exist. You become ready by doing, not by waiting. When you keep your dream alive, even when progress is slow, you're keeping a part of your soul alive. You're honoring the part of you that believes in possibility, that refuses to fold, that knows life has more to offer than repetition and regret. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." If your dream feels far, blocked by obstacles, that's not a sign to quit. That's a sign you're on the right path. The resistance means it matters. So what if it takes years? The time will pass anyway. So what if you fail 100 times? Every failure is a sign you tried, and trying again is what builds mastery. So what if people doubt you? They don't have to believe in you. That's your job. The world needs people who don't quit, people who choose meaning over comfort, people who look fear in the eye and still take the next step. That's how movements begin. That's how lives are changed. You are not too old, you are not too late, and you are not out of chances, unless you choose to stop giving yourself one. If the dream still lives in you, don't walk away, don't silence it, don't shrink from it. Tend to it, feed it with action, protect it from the noise, and above all, keep moving. Because when you refuse to abandon your dream, it refuses to abandon you. 2. Seek fulfillment, not just success. There's a strange thing that happens when people get what they thought they always wanted. They hit the milestone, they earn the title, they finally buy the house, the car, the recognition, the applause. And for a brief moment, there's a surge of pride, maybe even happiness. But then something creeps in, a quiet sense of disappointment, an emptiness no one prepared them for. They ask themselves, is this it? You see, the world sells us success like it's a finish line. Work hard, check the boxes, get the results. But what the world rarely tells you is this: success without fulfillment is the fastest way to feel lost at the top. It's the cruel joke of modern ambition, climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. Fulfillment is something different. It's deeper. It doesn't always look impressive on the outside, but it feels right on the inside. It's not just about what you do. It's about why you do it, who you're becoming in the process, and how aligned it is with your values. Most people chase success because they believe it will give them meaning. But the truth is, success should be a byproduct of meaning, not a substitute for it. You can't fill a spiritual void with material trophies. You can't substitute deep purpose with shallow praise. No promotion, no paycheck, no round of applause can replace that quiet sense of knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you were meant to do. And yet, we live in a world obsessed with metrics, likes, follows, awards, status. It's easy to fall into the trap of building a life that looks good on paper but feels hollow in your heart. It's easy to become a high achiever who's low in spirit, to become successful in everyone else's eyes, but a stranger to yourself. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, once said, "Ever more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for." That line cuts deep, because it's true. Most people aren't suffering from a lack of success. They're suffering from a lack of meaning. They've checked all the boxes, but they still wake up with a quiet ache, wondering what it's all for. So what does fulfillment actually look like? It looks like waking up excited to do work that matters, even if no one's watching. It looks like choosing integrity over popularity, like finding joy in small moments, not just milestones, like knowing that even on your hardest days, you're moving in a direction that aligns with your soul. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's unpopular. Sometimes it means saying no to money and yes to purpose. But it's real. It lasts, and it sustains you when everything else fades. Now, this doesn't mean you can't pursue success. Of course you can, and you should, but only when that success is tied to something meaningful, only when it's the result of living your values, not abandoning them. There's a reason so many celebrities, athletes, and billionaires end up miserable. It's not because they failed, it's because they won the wrong game. They spent years chasing validation from the outside and ignored the voice on the inside. Fulfillment asks tougher questions. It doesn't ask, how much did you make? It asks, how much did you grow? It doesn't ask, how famous are you? It asks, how honest are you? It doesn't care if you were admired. It cares if you were aligned. And the best part, fulfillment doesn't require 1 million followers. It doesn't require approval. It doesn't even require perfect circumstances. It just requires one thing: choosing a path that is true to you. That's where peace lives. That's where pride is born. Not from the applause of the crowd, but from the quiet knowing that you didn't sell your soul just to look successful. The Stoics understood this. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Chasing more for the sake of more is a trap. Real wealth comes from knowing what is enough and building a life around it. So pause for a second and ask yourself, are you chasing a life that looks good, or one that feels good? Are you running toward your own vision, or someone else's expectations? Don't waste your energy building someone else's definition of success. Don't let culture define what making it looks like for you, and don't confuse being busy with being fulfilled. A full calendar doesn't mean a full heart. Instead, build a life that feels rich in meaning, one where your actions reflect your values, where your goals are not just about achievement, but about alignment, where you don't just chase success, you chase significance. Because in the end, success without fulfillment isn't really success at all. It's a performance. It's a costume. It fades. But fulfillment? That's the kind of success that never expires. Choose it, and build everything else around that. 3. Purpose is power. There's a kind of strength that doesn't come from lifting weights or winning arguments. It comes from waking up every day knowing why you do what you do. It's quiet, focused, and unstoppable. That strength is called purpose. And once you find it, you become almost untouchable. Purpose is not a luxury reserved for the gifted or lucky. It's not something handed to you by a mentor or written in the stars. It's something you cultivate. Purpose is the internal fire that makes discipline possible, resilience real, and progress inevitable. It's what turns ordinary people into forces of nature. Without purpose, even the strongest person becomes directionless. You may work hard, but you'll feel scattered. You may be productive, but you'll feel disconnected. Like a ship without a compass, you'll drift, no matter how fast you're sailing. With purpose, on the other hand, everything changes. Your setbacks become part of the mission. Your pain gains meaning. Your sacrifices start to make sense. When you know what you're fighting for, really know, there's almost nothing that can stop you. But here's the truth most people avoid. Finding purpose requires honesty, brutal, courageous honesty. It requires asking yourself questions that don't have quick answers. Questions like, what do I care about so deeply that I'm willing to be misunderstood for it? What pain have I endured that I can turn into something useful for others? What problem would I still try to solve, even if I failed 10 times in a row? These are not casual questions. They demand silence, reflection, and a willingness to confront the parts of you that you usually avoid. But on the other side of that discomfort, is clarity. People often think they need motivation to move forward, but motivation fades. What lasts is purpose. Purpose is the engine, the foundation, the reason you get back up when life knocks you flat, the reason you say no to distractions and yes to discipline. Let's make this real. Picture someone who's struggling to stay consistent, waking up late, scrolling for hours, quitting when things get hard. Then imagine they're handed a mission that matters, something deeply tied to their values, a child to protect, a dream that could save lives. Suddenly, they stop snoozing the alarm. They put down the phone. They endure the discomfort. Why? Because their energy now has a direction. They're not just surviving. They're serving something greater than their own comfort. That's what purpose does. It gives your pain a place to go. It turns your suffering into fuel. It transforms anxiety into action. And most importantly, it reminds you that your life is not just about avoiding struggle. It's about choosing a struggle that matters. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one that is purpose." It's not just about thinking, it's about doing, living, becoming, not because someone else told you to, but because your soul won't settle for anything less. When you find your purpose, even a glimpse of it, you start walking differently. You speak with more conviction. You stop chasing approval and start building impact. Your energy becomes focused, clean, and powerful. But here's where it gets tricky. Purpose is not always glamorous. It doesn't always come with applause. It often asks you to be patient, quiet, and consistent in ways that no one sees. But it fills you with a kind of peace and power that no external reward ever could. You begin to play the long game. You stop looking for quick wins and start building legacy. You stop comparing your path to others because you realize they're not walking your road. Your metrics change. Instead of asking, "Did I win?" you ask, "Did I stay true to what matters?" And you start to notice something. Your resilience grows. You're less rattled by failure, less tempted by shortcuts, less seduced by distractions, because you're anchored, centered, grounded in something real. There's a kind of calm confidence that comes from purpose, not loud, not arrogant, but solid. You don't need to shout to prove your worth. Your actions speak louder than any words ever could. So if you feel lost, scattered, or burnt out, don't just look for motivation, look for purpose. Ask yourself, what am I willing to suffer for? What would I do even if I failed? What feels deeply right, even if it's hard? And once you find that, protect it, nurture it, build your routines, your habits, your mindset around it. Let it be the foundation of your strength, because purpose is not a feeling, it's a decision, a direction, a devotion to something bigger than your ego. And once you make that choice, your life will never be the same. 4. Stop waiting. Start building. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, you'll wait forever. That moment doesn't exist, not the way you imagine it. The stars will never perfectly align, the fear will never fully disappear, and you will never feel ready enough. The people who build extraordinary lives aren't the ones who wait for permission. They're the ones who begin in silence, in doubt, in the middle of the storm. Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they delay. They keep waiting for the fog to clear before they take the first step. But here's the hard truth. Clarity comes after action, not before it. You don't think your way into a better life. You build your way into one. Brick by brick, inch by inch. Waiting is seductive because it gives the illusion of preparation. But if you're honest with yourself, Much of what you call planning is just fear wearing a clever disguise. You overthink. You over-prepare. You tell yourself you're being responsible, strategic, cautious. But deep down, you're avoiding the discomfort of beginning. You're afraid of failing, of judgment, of not being good enough. And the more you wait, the more you lose. Not just time, but confidence. Every day you hesitate, your dream moves further into the distance. Every time you say, maybe tomorrow, your brain begins to believe that today isn't worth showing up for. And that belief compounds. Days turn to months, months to years, and one day you look back and realize, I didn't even try. Now, that realization can break you, or it can set you free. Because here's the beauty in it. It's never too late to begin. The clock isn't your enemy unless you refuse to move. No matter how old you are, no matter how far behind you feel, today can be the most important day of your life. If you decide to start building instead of waiting, start small, build something real, write the first page, record the first idea, apply for the opportunity, learn the skill, make the phone call. Start with what you have, where you are, and build forward from there. You don't need a master plan. You need momentum. Momentum doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. From stringing together enough days where you showed up, even when you didn't feel like it, especially when you didn't feel like it. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what you have to do," not as if you're being watched, but because it's your nature to do it. He wasn't talking about performing for others. He was describing integrity, purpose, a life lived in motion, guided by principle. He didn't wait for motivation. He moved because it was right, because the work mattered, and your work matters too, even if no one sees it yet, even if it's messy and imperfect, even if you feel like an imposter. Every great builder begins in obscurity. Every great writer begins with a blank page. Every leader begins with self-doubt. But they don't stay there because they build their way out. The act of building does something powerful to your mind. It replaces fear with focus. It turns pain into purpose. It gives your energy a direction. And with every brick you lay, you become stronger, more confident, more capable. You stop waiting for the world to believe in you, and you start becoming someone you can believe in. And here's something else. The people who succeed aren't the ones with the least fear. They're the ones who keep moving despite it. They don't need external validation to begin. They don't need a guarantee of success. They just decide, I will not waste another day on the sidelines of my own life. Because every second you spend waiting for a perfect time, someone else is building, someone else is failing forward, someone else is learning through action, and that gap widens with every hesitation. So if you're stuck in planning mode, trapped in overthinking, waiting for just the right time, stop, shift your mindset. You are not preparing anymore, you are building, and that shift will change everything. When you build, you reclaim your power. You no longer let fear, doubt, or other people's opinions dictate your pace. You become a creator, not a consumer, a driver, not a passenger. You start choosing progress over perfection. And slowly, things begin to change. Your identity shifts. You're no longer someone who wants to, you're someone who does. Your story becomes one of action, not excuses. And the pride that comes from that? It's unmatched. You don't have to do everything today, but you do have to do something, because motion compounds, confidence compounds, and courage, the kind that builds legacies, grows one imperfect step at a time. So stop waiting. Stop hiding behind preparation. Stop believing the lie that you need to be more ready, more talented, more anything. You are not behind unless you choose to stay there. The moment you begin building is the moment your life begins to change. 5. Turn struggle into strength. The hardest moments in life don't break you. They reveal you, but only if you're willing to face them. Most people run from struggle. They numb it, avoid it, or wish it away. But if you can sit with it, listen to it, and walk through it, that's when it transforms. That's when pain becomes power. That's when the weakness you once hid becomes the strength you now lead with. Every person you admire has scars they've turned into armor. They didn't get stronger by being spared from pain. They got stronger by choosing to grow through it, by refusing to let it define them. Struggle, by its very nature, is uncomfortable, but comfort rarely builds character. The fire you're trying to escape might be the very thing shaping you into something more. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." This isn't just philosophy, it's a principle of life. Growth is not supposed to feel easy. A muscle doesn't get stronger without resistance. A tree doesn't grow roots unless it faces the wind. And you will never become the person you're capable of becoming unless you lean into your pain and mine it for wisdom. The truth is, adversity will come for you whether you like it or not. It's not a matter of if, but when. The only choice you truly have is, will I allow this to shape me or shatter me? Some people live their entire lives as victims of their past, not because of what happened, but because of the meaning they assigned to it. They carry their pain like a permanent identity, a story they keep repeating until it becomes their cage. But pain was never meant to be your prison. It was meant to be your teacher. Think about the most defining challenges you've faced so far: the betrayal, the failure, the humiliation, the heartbreak, the loss. At the time, it might have felt unbearable, but looking back, didn't it also awaken something in you? A new level of awareness, a deeper capacity for empathy, a sharper sense of what truly matters. Struggle strips away what's superficial. It burns through the noise, and what's left is raw, real, unfiltered strength. But strength doesn't come automatically. It comes through choice. You have to decide to take responsibility for your pain. You have to turn inward instead of blaming outward. That's when transformation begins. That's when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? And that shift changes everything. You become someone who extracts meaning from adversity, someone who doesn't just survive, but evolves. And when you do that enough times, a strange thing happens. You stop fearing struggle. You begin to see it as part of the path. Not an obstacle to avoid, but a challenge to rise through. A call to greatness disguised as hardship. Look at every great story, whether it's a leader, an artist, a thinker, a builder. What made their story powerful wasn't comfort, it was struggle. Viktor Frankl didn't find the meaning of life in safety. He found it in a concentration camp. Nelson Mandela didn't develop his unshakable strength during applause. He developed it during 27 years in prison. Maya Angelou didn't become a voice for millions because she was spared from suffering. She became that voice because of it. Their stories are mirrors. They remind us that what tries to destroy you can actually awaken the best in you if you choose to respond with courage. So the next time you face hardship, and you will, don't ask for it to go away. Ask for the strength to face it, to endure it, to rise from it with something no one can take from you: self-respect, clarity, wisdom, purpose. And if you're in a season of struggle right now, listen carefully. This moment is not your end. It's your turning point. It's asking you to become more. not to prove yourself to anyone else, but to yourself. Show yourself that you're still standing, that you can keep moving even when the ground feels shaky, that you can find light inside the darkest tunnel and carry it forward to someone else who needs it. Because that's the most powerful part of all. When you turn your struggle into strength, you don't just heal yourself, you help others heal too. Your story becomes someone else's roadmap. Your scars become someone else's hope. And in that exchange, pain doesn't just lose its power to harm you. It becomes part of your legacy. Struggle, when faced with the right mindset, becomes sacred. It refines you. It deepens you. It reminds you that you're more resilient than you ever thought. And while you can't control when or how it comes, you can always choose what it creates in you. Turn it into strength. 6. You become what you consistently do. If you stripped away everything, your name, your past, your appearance, your titles, what would remain? Just your habits, the patterns you live by, the quiet rituals that shape your days and ultimately define your character. You are not what you say you'll do. You are what you repeatedly do without being told, without applause, without immediate reward. That is your truth. We often overestimate the power of a single moment and underestimate the force of a daily habit. People wait for breakthroughs, a stroke of genius, a spark of motivation, a sudden change. But they forget that transformation happens quietly. It happens in what you practice every day. Every thought you entertain, every choice you make, every action you repeat. These are the bricks that build your future. Aristotle put it simply, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. That means your greatness won't be found in rare heroic gestures. It will be found in consistency, in how you treat your body when no one is watching, in how you talk to yourself when you fail, in whether you show up even when it's boring, inconvenient, or hard. The habits you live by, your routines, your mindset, your reactions, are not just reflections of who you are. They are creators of who you're becoming. Let's be honest, it's easy to talk about goals. It's much harder to build a system around them. You can write down your dreams all you want, but without a structure to support them, they remain fantasies. The truth is, discipline beats motivation every time, because motivation comes and goes. But discipline is built. It's trained like a muscle, and the more you use it, the more powerful it becomes. When you commit to something small every day, reading 10 pages, walking for 20 minutes, writing 1 paragraph, you're not just changing your schedule. You're proving something to yourself. I am someone who follows through. That identity shift is everything, because once you start to see yourself differently, your behavior follows. You no longer go to the gym to lose weight. You go because you're the kind of person who takes care of their body. You don't write just to finish a book. You write because you're a writer. You don't meditate to check a box. You do it because you are someone who cultivates stillness. It becomes who you are. But most people get stuck because they think they need to do everything at once. They try to change their life overnight, and when it doesn't happen, they give up. But the most powerful transformations are not loud. They're slow, silent. They happen in the space between who you used to be and who you're becoming, and that space is shaped by repetition. If you want to change your life, don't start with a giant leap. Start with one small habit, and protect it with everything you have. One daily practice that becomes non-negotiable, then stack another, and another. Before you know it, your life will start to reflect your intention, not your impulse. There's a reason elite performers in sports, in business, in creativity focus obsessively on process, because they understand this truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So, build systems that pull you forward even when your willpower is gone. Design your environment, your schedule, your priorities in a way that supports your best self. Not the one you wish existed, but the one you're building through action. And this isn't just about discipline or productivity, it's about integrity. There's a deep peace that comes from living in alignment with your values, when your actions match your words, when your daily life becomes proof of your inner commitment. That's when confidence grows, not from hype, not from external validation, but from witnessing yourself do the hard thing over and over again. Even failure, when filtered through consistent effort, becomes fuel. Because when you have habits that ground you, failure doesn't throw you off course. It becomes part of the course. You learn, you adapt, you keep going. That's real resilience. So ask yourself, what are you doing every single day? What are the unconscious habits you've allowed to shape you? Are they building the life you want, or just maintaining the one you settled for? You don't need to control everything about your future, but you do need to control what you do today, and then do it again tomorrow, and again. Because that's how legacies are built, not in grand moments, but in invisible repetitions. You are always becoming something. The question is, are you becoming it on purpose? 7. Trust the inner voice. There's a voice inside you that speaks before the world gets too loud, before the doubts, before the pressure, before the opinions, the algorithms, the noise. That voice doesn't shout, it whispers, and if you've ignored it long enough, it might feel like it's disappeared altogether. But it hasn't. It's still there, waiting for you to get quiet enough to hear it again. In a world addicted to external validation, trusting yourself can feel like rebellion. Everything around you is trying to tell you what to do, who to be, and what your life should look like. Social media shows you polished versions of success. Family may project their fears onto your dreams. Friends, even with good intentions, often don't understand the battles you're fighting silently. And over time, if you're not careful, their voices drown out your own. But your inner voice, that intuition, that pull in your chest, that feeling in your gut, it's your compass. It's not always logical, it's rarely loud, but it's deeply personal, and if you learn to listen to it, it will never lead you astray. Not because it guarantees comfort, but because it always points to truth. Think back to the moments in your life when you ignored it. The job you knew wasn't right, the relationship you felt uneasy about, the path you followed because it looked good on paper, even though something inside you felt off. You knew. You always knew. But maybe you were afraid of being wrong, or afraid of disappointing others, or afraid of what might happen if you trusted yourself and it didn't work out. But here's the paradox. Not listening to yourself is the surest way to live with regret, because even if you fail after trusting your gut, you walk away with integrity, with clarity, with the knowledge that you lived on your own terms, not someone else's script. There's power in that. There's freedom. People often mistake intuition for recklessness, but the two couldn't be more different. Intuition is grounded. It doesn't push you to act impulsively. It pushes you to act authentically, to align your actions with your deeper knowing, even if it takes time to understand why. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, because trusting yourself means walking a path that others may not see yet. It means saying no to what's popular and saying yes to what feels quietly right. And that's scary, especially when you're surrounded by noise. But silence reveals what the noise hides. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And if your thoughts are constantly shaped by what others think, by what society demands, then your soul starts to lose its original color. The voice inside you gets quieter. You become a stranger to your own instincts. So how do you reconnect with that voice? Start by slowing down. Create space in your life to be with your thoughts, without distraction, without filters. Go on walks without your phone. Journal without editing. Sit with your discomfort instead of escaping it. You'll be surprised how much clarity returns when you stop running from yourself. Then, pay attention to how your body reacts to choices, that tightness in your chest. That's not just stress, it could be misalignment. That sense of ease when thinking about a certain decision. That's not just relief. That could be your true speaking up. Over time, as you practice listening, something shifts. You start to recognize patterns. You start to trust that inner nudge. And with each decision made from that place, whether big or small, your confidence grows. You no longer need to be told what's right for you. You feel it. And when the outside world questions you, you don't waver, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity, because you've learned to trust the one voice that's been with you from the very beginning. Will it always be easy? Sometimes that voice will lead you into the unknown. It will ask you to let go of comfort, to walk away from what everyone else is celebrating, to take the longer road when the shortcut is tempting, but it will always lead you toward yourself. And in a world where most people are lost, trying to become someone else, that's the most radical act of all, to become fully, unapologetically you. So the next time you're faced with a choice, pause. Don't rush to ask everyone what they think. Don't run to compare or scroll or seek advice from people who don't understand your path. Instead, get still. Listen. What's your inner voice saying? Because that voice, quiet, persistent and patient, just might be the only guide you ever truly need. 8. Recognize and seize opportunity. Opportunity isn't luck. It's clarity. It's readiness. It's the quiet awareness that something important is in front of you, even when the world is too distracted to notice. The truth is, most people don't miss out on success because there are no doors to walk through. They miss out because they don't recognize the door when it opens. Or worse, they're too hesitant to walk through it when they do. We've been conditioned to believe that opportunities arrive with fanfare, job offers, big breaks, dream moments wrapped in gold. But in reality, they often show up disguised as hard work, as challenges, as subtle shifts, as small windows that appear for a moment and disappear just as quickly. The people who change their lives don't wait for these moments to be perfect. They see them early and they move fast. But how do you develop that kind of vision? How do you train yourself to recognize opportunity when others don't? It starts with your mindset. If your mind is fixed on fear, negativity, or past failures, you'll be blind to what's in front of you. It's like trying to find light while wearing tinted glasses. It's there, but you can't see it because your filter is broken. On the other hand, if you shift your mindset to one of openness, curiosity, and confidence, you start noticing things that others overlook. A conversation becomes a connection. A problem becomes a business idea. A setback becomes a path you were meant to take. Opportunity isn't about seeing something new. It's about seeing what's already there through a better lens. It also comes down to attention. If you're always distracted, scrolling, comparing, jumping from one thing to another, you won't be present enough to notice the signs. Opportunity doesn't shout. It whispers. It's in the hesitation of a colleague who might need your help. It's in the silence of your intuition urging you to act. It's in the moment you want to quit, when the real chance is to persist. But if you're not paying attention, you'll miss all of it. Not because you're not capable, but because you're not awake. There's a powerful quote often attributed to Louis Pasteur: "Chance favors only the prepared mind." Think about that. What if the biggest break of your life came tomorrow? Would you be ready? Would you have the courage to say yes? Would you have the habits, the focus, the mental strength to step into it? Preparation is not glamorous, it's not exciting, but it's what makes opportunity real. Every time you read when others waste time, every time you show up early, every time you refine your skills even when no one is watching, you're quietly building readiness. And the moment the opportunity comes, you'll move fast because you won't be starting from zero. But even when you recognize an opportunity, the hardest part is this: acting on it. That's where most people freeze, because opportunities often require risk. They demand discomfort. They ask you to bet on yourself before the outcome is guaranteed. That's scary, and that's why so many people let them pass. They say, maybe later. They say, it's not the right time. They say, what if I fail? But they never ask, what if this changes everything? The Stoics had a term, kairos, the right or opportune moment. Unlike chronos, which is chronological time, kairos is spiritual time, time that matters, a moment that, if seized, can transform the direction of your life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. He was describing opportunity in disguise. Moments that seem difficult or inconvenient, but are actually the very doorway to something better. To seize opportunity, you have to reframe discomfort. You have to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start making the moment perfect by your action. When others hesitate, you lean in. When others overthink, you take the first step. Not recklessly, but decisively, because every second you hesitate, the moment gets colder. Opportunity is alive, but it has a short breath. If you don't act, someone else will. Or worse, no one will, and it will vanish. The more you act on small opportunities, the more prepared you'll be for the big ones. Every little risk, every bold decision, every time you put yourself out there, it trains your nervous system to trust itself. Confidence grows. You stop needing guarantees. You start becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait to be chosen. You choose yourself. Look around. Right now, there are opportunities near you. They might not be glamorous or obvious, but they're real. A new skill you could learn, a person you could reach out to, a daily habit you've been putting off that could change everything. Stop waiting. Stop analyzing everything to death. Start acting, because nothing will ever feel ready. You make it ready by walking into it with courage. And one day, when everything falls into place, people will say you were lucky. But you'll know the truth. You didn't get lucky. You were paying attention. You were ready. You moved. 9. Your attitude creates your reality. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are. That's not just a poetic idea. It's a psychological truth. Every experience, every obstacle, every moment you encounter is filtered through your internal state. Your beliefs, your emotions, your mindset, they color your perception. And over time, they shape your entire reality. If you walk through life believing the world is unfair, unkind, or against you, guess what you'll see? Proof. Everywhere. Every delay becomes an attack. Every rejection becomes a betrayal. Every challenge becomes a confirmation that you're unlucky, cursed, or destined to fail. But if you shift your attitude, not to blind optimism, but to grounded strength, everything changes. You begin to see setbacks as teachers, delays as detours, not dead ends. Rejections as redirection towards something better. The most successful, peaceful, and grounded people on earth aren't the ones with perfect lives. They're the ones with powerful attitudes, the kind that shape their lives no matter what chaos surrounds them. They choose how to interpret events. They decide how to respond. They train their minds to stay centered even when the world tries to pull them off balance. That's not a gift, that's a decision, one they make over and over again, even when it's hard. So ask yourself, what kind of attitude are you waking up with every day? Is it reactive, letting the outside world dictate how you feel, or proactive, setting the emotional tone before the day even begins? Do you start your mornings with worry and resistance, already bracing for what might go wrong? Or do you begin with clarity and presence, reminding yourself that no matter what happens, you have power over how you meet it? Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That line is profound. Think about it. What color is your mind painting your life with today? Are you painting your days with anxiety, resentment, and fear? Or are you brushing them with strength, clarity, and resilience? Because the world will always offer both beauty and pain, but your attitude chooses which one becomes your reality. You might not control what people say about you. You might not control the economy, the traffic, or the random misfortunes of life, but you do control how you meet them. And in that space, between what happens and how you respond, is where your true power lives. Most people never claim that power. They hand it away. They let other people's moods infect their peace. They let minor inconveniences ruin entire days. They give their attention, and with it, their reality, to things that don't matter. But once you decide to take it back, everything transforms. You begin to filter your environment instead of being shaped by it. You stop absorbing negativity and start radiating stability. You stop being a victim of moods and start becoming a master of your mind. That shift doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires a perfect choice. The choice to stop letting your attitude be random. The choice to make it intentional. That's what separates those who crumble under pressure from those who rise through it. It's not intelligence. It's not talent. It's emotional direction. A calm person isn't lucky. They're practiced. A positive person isn't naive. They're disciplined. And here's the most powerful part. Your attitude is contagious. It affects your relationships, your energy, your influence. People feel it, even if you don't say a word. A calm, focused presence creates trust. A grounded, optimistic outlook inspires others. A clear, confident attitude makes people want to follow you, listen to you, work with you. Your attitude becomes your silent resume, one that speaks louder than your words ever could. You don't need to fake positivity. You need to choose perspective. That doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means confronting it with courage. It means saying, "This hurts, but I'll grow from it." It means saying, "This is hard, but I've handled hard things before." It means holding space for both struggle and strength in the same breath, and refusing to let one define you. This mindset doesn't just improve your mental health, it rewires your brain. Neuroscience shows that your thoughts actually change the structure of your brain over time. The more you focus on possibility, the more your brain scans for opportunity. The more you dwell on gratitude, the more your nervous system shifts out of survival mode. Attitude isn't fluff. It's a physiological force, a tool, one that rewrites your reality from the inside out. So if you want to change your life, don't start by changing the outside. Start by changing your attitude toward it. Start by waking up and asking, how do I want to experience this day, no matter what happens? Start by deciding in advance that nothing will steal your peace, your focus, or your growth. That's not denial. That's mastery. And when the world throws its storms your way, and it will, you won't crumble. You'll stand like a mountain, not because the wind stopped, but because you built your strength at the root. 10. Win the inner battle first. Before you fight the world, you must conquer yourself. Every challenge you face in life, whether it's achieving your goals, fixing a broken relationship, or finding peace in the chaos, all of it begins with a much quieter, more personal struggle. The one that happens in your own mind, the one that no one else can see. The inner battle between who you are and who you want to become, between discipline and distraction, between fear and courage, between your higher self and your most self-destructive instincts. Most people lose this battle long before they ever step into the arena of life. They lose it when they hit snooze in the morning, even though their goals demand movement. They lose it when they avoid the hard conversation because it's uncomfortable. They lose it when they scroll endlessly, eat mindlessly, speak thoughtlessly, not because they're weak, but because they've never trained for the fight inside. The Stoics believed that the hardest war is the one we wage against our own impulses, and they were right, because it's far easier to criticize others than to hold ourselves accountable. It's easier to blame our parents, our circumstances, or the economy than it is to face our own role in our suffering. It's easier to perform strength on the outside than to build it within. But here's the brutal truth. You can't fake it forever. You might project confidence to the world. You might even convince others you've got it all together. But when the room is silent and you're alone with your thoughts, there's no hiding. And if you haven't won the inner war, that silence becomes deafening. So how do you win it? You start by understanding this. Your mind is a battleground, and you are both the warrior and the weapon. Every thought you allow to grow inside your head becomes part of the army you're training. If you constantly entertain doubt, then doubt becomes your general. If you give power to excuses, they will lead the charge. But if you begin each day by standing guard at the gates of your own mind, by consciously choosing discipline, honesty, and purpose, then you become unstoppable. Because no one can destroy a person who has made peace within themselves. This doesn't mean you're always calm. It means that when chaos comes, you return to yourself. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you've decided to be. Winning the inner battle means creating non-negotiables. It means having a code, a philosophy, a set of standards that do not bend to emotion or fatigue. It's saying, I don't care how I feel today. I do the work. I keep the promise I made to myself, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's what discipline is, the ability to act with integrity, not mood. It means stopping yourself mid-thought when your inner critic starts screaming lies and replacing those lies with truth. It means noticing when your ego wants to respond, to argue, to prove, and choosing stillness instead. Not because you're passive, but because you are powerful. Power is the ability to choose your response. Reactivity is weakness in disguise. And make no mistake, this battle is never over. Winning it today doesn't guarantee victory tomorrow. That's why the Stoics journaled every night. That's why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It was a daily practice, a sacred commitment. That's what you must build, a practice of internal victory, a habit of catching yourself, A system of accountability with yourself that is stronger than the world's chaos. Because if you don't build that, life will always feel like it's happening to you instead of through you. Think of the people you admire most, the ones who seem calm under pressure, focused in chaos, grounded no matter what happens. They're not built by luck. They're built in silence. They've bled in private, so they can stand in public. They've lost themselves, found themselves, and chosen themselves again, 100 times. They've looked in the mirror and said, "This ends with me." And that's where your transformation begins. It begins the moment you take full responsibility for your life, not in the way society tells you to, but in the deepest way possible. You become your own source of validation, your own source of strength, your own source of leadership. Not because you want to be alone, but because you know the foundation must be solid before you build anything on top of it. When you win the inner battle, you stop chasing permission. You stop waiting to be rescued. You stop needing applause. You begin building a life that reflects who you've become on the inside, and that life becomes unshakable. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it means that even on the hardest days, you won't abandon yourself. And that is the real win. The world will always try to pull you in 1,000 directions. There will always be noise, pressure, opinions, and distractions. But in the end, your life comes down to one thing: your relationship with yourself. All the knowledge, all the strategies, all the growth, they mean nothing if you haven't learned how to stand with yourself in silence. To be the kind of person who doesn't crumble under judgment, who doesn't chase applause, who doesn't lose themselves in chaos, but instead someone who leads with clarity, lives with courage, and moves through life with quiet strength. And if this episode has reminded you of anything, let it be this: the journey is never out there. It's always inward. Every external win must first begin as an internal victory. Every step toward the life you want begins with a question. Who am I becoming, and what am I still tolerating that keeps me from becoming it? So as you move forward, I hope you do so not just with inspiration, but with intention. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, but you do need to start showing up differently, for yourself, for your future, for the life you haven't even seen yet. But that is quietly waiting for the day you finally decide to become the person who's worthy of it. And if no one has told you this lately, I will. You are stronger than you think. You are not behind, and it's not too late to begin again. If this episode gave you something to think about, something to feel, or a reason to shift how you're living, I invite you to share it with someone else who might need it. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and let's keep building this space for reflection and clarity. One thought, one day, one powerful inner decision at a time. Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever have. Learn to master it, and everything else will follow. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay focused, stay grounded, and keep becoming.